Generosity and service have a major role in my life. They used to be things that I did. Being generous on occasion or serving on occasion used to be something that I would do. It was like a transaction. Now it's just a part of life. I mean, it is just intertwines with everything else. I don't know how to separate it because it is part of just who I am, not from so much I do it, but from the way my life turns. My community is in service community, and people know where the passions of my heart are, and they know if I could give, I will give, and if I can't, I won't. The way generosity or being generous in service became a big part of my life, I didn't even realize it, but it started when I was young. I was really blessed. And when I say blessed, I was blessed with parents that had the right attitude about this. And I grew up on the end of a dirt road in Oklahoma, and my dad really struggled to make ends meet. But in particular, one thing that, there were many things we did, but one thing that we did that I always remembered and ended up marking my life is in Oklahoma, in the winter, you have some very, very bad ice storms, and they are just horribly bad, and they're terribly difficult to drive on. And my dad would come home from work, and he would tell my brother and I, okay, put the chains on. And on the truck, we'd go outside in the cold, jack the truck up, and put the snow chains on. We'd wait another 2 or 3 hours. Mom would make some sandwiches and hot soup and stuff. And then we'd get in our truck, the only truck the family had, and we'd drive the roads all night long. And we'd pull people out of the ditch, and we would take them to where they needed to go. And my dad would never let anyone pay us. And that didn't matter whether we pulled out a Cadillac or a beat-up Chevy. He wouldn't let anyone pay us. And we never really followed up with those people. It was just something that we felt like doing. And I didn't realize that really marked me. But as life would go on and I got to a place where I could give, whether it be money or whether it could be time, I started doing that a little bit. And every time I do it, it was like, great. I actually wanted to brag about it to everybody, but I tried not to. But I wanted to. But then I realized one day that I was still not to where I started from, where it was just part of what we did. It was just part of who you were. And I remember I've been real fortunate being involved with youth. I've been on lots of missions outside this country and all over this country. And on one of those mission trips, I remember thinking, man, this is what's important. This is really what counts. I mean, these are lives. What if this is all I could do? It might be a lot more important than what I did. And I realized not only was it the help to those people, but my life was changing. I was beginning to understand that what I had been given to me. I mean, I'm a dirt road guy from rural Oklahoma. Did I really do this myself? I don't think so. So I realized that these were gifts. And now that they were gifts, even my time was a gift, they were gifts, they were things that I needed to start stewarding. And so then became a habit. I started forming a habit of trying to be as generous as I could. Sometimes they're better than other times. And then trying to serve as I could. And sure enough, as soon as I did that, the Lord started sending me the best opportunities. Not just something to do, but I started getting these really rich opportunities in terms of giving and in terms of serving. And it wasn't long until it just became part of who I am, and it adds the quality of my life. I've had a really blessed life and a lot of rewards, starting again at the end of a dirt road in Oklahoma. It's not very difficult to see how you've been blessed. But one of the places where I have just been wildly rewarded, I never expected, was when I reluctantly agreed to spend time with youth, and what began a 20-year journey where I became a de facto youth minister, where I was working with 11th and 12th graders at our church, pretty big program. And it turned into a long, long time. The rewards from youth don't come quickly. They don't say things instantly, but 3 and 4 and 5 years later. And now when I watch how young ladies have selected their husbands, when I am there at the christening of their children, at their marriages, when I have one set of youth that run the program I created for 12th graders, they're now doing that for the same group. And those rewards are kind of outrageous when you see that happen. And of course, the youth themselves come back and give you way too much credit. That whole period of time was when I got involved in mission trips. And missions are very interesting when you serve in missions, because everybody has a life-changing experience. And the first change I experienced in missions when I served on missions was I'm out with a group of people that reminded me of rural Oklahoma. These are people that don't have what I've been given. But that's not the most transforming part about missions. The transforming part was when I served lightly and God did great things through me. It was the first time I ever understood humility. Humility was the ability to serve when called and then watch God do things that I could have never done. And I could have never claimed what he did. I couldn't do it. And I've understood for the first time what humble meant. Humble was not recognizing the opportunities God gives me, but it was recognizing what he does with those opportunities. And when I experienced that, I realized I wanted to experience that every time God wanted to use me. And so that began the mark of service in my life, and generosity followed that. I think being generous and serving is probably more challenging for younger people these days than it was for me. I mentioned earlier I was at the end of a dirt road in Oklahoma. We had a community. You had to rely on your community. And today, we don't teach the fact that God created us to be in community. He gave us the resources we need to be in community. And our richest life is lived in community. Therefore, it's easier when you're young today to think about you and yours, and isolation and your performance and your relationship. So I think it's more difficult to become very generous and to have service as a mark of your life. I think the steps that we go through to do that is, first off, comes out of Romans 12, 1 and 2, in view of God's mercy, offer yourself. The first thing is the realization that God has been merciful to you, that he has actually done something for you. And then I think the second step is, then I'm going to try to do something with God. And you have to have a transaction. You have to experience it. You have to give at some point above your means. You have to give not just $2 to the guy asking for it on the street corner, but you have to give in a way that it means something to you at some point. And you have to serve in the same way, not where you just facelessly do something for someone, but where you put yourself out there a little bit. When you do that, it's up to God to give you back the message of that will lead you to where your calling is. Again, I deal a lot with young folks, and I think they spend a lot of time wanting to know where their career calling is, many of them where their spiritual calling is. And they haven't yet gone through the process that the Lord wants them to go through, which is really catalog their mercies and then put out there, make a generous attempt. Make a service attempt that really shares who you are. And oftentimes, those two are tied together. You know, a question that comes up all the time is time, talent, or treasure. You know, is it just one of these? Is it all three of these? And we tend to teach things in silos, but my experience in my life is that time, talent, and treasure are the same thing, okay? And what I mean by that is we are really called to share the gospel. And there's three basic ways we can share the gospel. And all three of them are exactly as Jesus did it. One is we can simply be generous. You know, people that are hurting cannot hear the gospel until the pain goes away. So sometimes we do that with the treasures that we've been given. We can serve, and we can serve those people. That's the way to share the gospel, right? And then also you have a talent of some type, whether it's photography, whether it's talking, whether it's leadership, whatever it is. And as you share that talent with the gospel behind it, people are beginning to see Jesus come alive. So when I look at this is the way we testify. Some of it with our lips, some of it with our hands, some of it with our money. Now certainly, some of us have been gifted with less talent than others. Some of us have been gifted with more money than others. And oftentimes, money is the problem because we are taught to hold on to our money real tightly. And anything that we hold on tightly to, we don't have the ability to have our hands open so God can fill them again. So if we hold on to who we are, God can't make us greater than we are if we hold on to our money. So some of us have bigger challenges with one of those. Some can give as long as people don't ask of them. But what the Lord asks us to do, and when the world turns from black and white to color, is when you offer yourself up. And when that includes the elements that you have, a piece of my money, a piece of my time, and then a piece of my talent. And pretty soon, you'll get called in and you'll say, my goodness, it wasn't my money after all. And it wasn't my talent after all. And I'm lucky to have the time. Lord, if it's yours, what do you want me to do with it? And that's where the three become one. And we have the true Trinity. You know, a question that bothers me oftentimes about generosity is how much is enough? And honestly, it's a difficult question. You know, how much do you have? Is it excess? Is it core? There's a lot. And I turned to my wife, Ann, and asked her the other night, how much is enough in our giving? And she said, I don't know. I really don't. But if it's a debate between more or less, I think we should pick more. If I was going to leave a single message to people I loved about generosity and service, it would be the fact that you should apply yourself early in your life to build these habits into your life, because the richness of your life is going to be exceptionally different. The Lord is looking for people to bless. I don't believe in a prosperity message, because prosperity normally means financial gain that's what we hear. But I believe in a prosperity message that God wants us to live a rich life, and He knows what it is. And when we start working with Him, that's what it becomes. And so much I've realized at this point in my life, so much of the pain I've experienced was truly avoidable. But it wasn't avoidable if I spent time working on myself and thinking about myself. As I began to get outside of myself, extend my treasures through generous giving, extend my service, my life became very rich. And some of you know that's hearing this message that's in my family. The family's life became richer as well. That'd be the message that I'd want to leave.